Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Batman Arkham Asylum. We watched a guy have a heart attack and die, I
I
guess.
love Metal Gear.
He skipped half of leg day and half of arm day and only committed to half push-ups.
Oh God, I don't love this menu.
If you skip half of leg day and half of arm day, wouldn't it just even out? And
No. Okay.
No, you just work
you
out
not
one
only
leg
skipped
and one
half
arm.
of it. Yeah. It's like it's an asymmetrical workout.
no.
So, yeah, whenever you're playing Arkham Asylum, here's what you do. Get the combo. No, wait, I don't think you get the combo. Oh, there it is. I'm looking around for it. Yeah, critical combo strikes. Get that first. It is overpowered as shit in this game.
Yeah.
Yes, you always get critical strikes first. About to give you that fucking backhand.
That's the one where, like, after you do a certain number of hits, you can insta-kill someone, right?
No, it is a multiplier if you do better
Oh, the
timing,
multiplier when you time your strikes better. Okay, I'm getting this mixed
which
up.
means you will be getting a lot more experience a lot earlier.
Yeah, I think it also just means you hit hard.
Arkham
Yes,
Asylum
just
is the
fucking
only game that I
smack
ever
everybody.
bothered to complete all the combat challenges in, so I did get all of this stuff and figure out how to use it to make smoother combos. You basically have to play perfect to get top tier ranks in the combat challenges.
Yeah. I've gotten platinum trophies on every game except Night. So
No, I don't blame for Night. And maybe City, because City asks you to do a lot too.
yeah, but that was also in like 2011, was it?
Yes.
So I was in college, had plenty of time to just sit around and play a game.
Yeah. Unfortunately, one of the weaknesses of the combat in Arkham Asylum at its base level is that it kind of has this kind of really rigid rock, paper, scissors structure to it. Once you get into the combo system, you're always going to be doing one specific thing to answer every specific thing that happens, and it's only ever going to happen one at a time, and basically, once you understand the flow of a particular combat challenge, it's just a matter of playing it like a rhythm game. You see someone, I think in order to... there's one thing that you throw a batarang for, there's one thing that you wave your cape for. There's a specific thing that you're supposed to dodge with good timing, I think.
Arkham Asylum didn't have much in combo finishers. It was either the instant takedown, and I think there was a throw.
Yeah. This was the only game to have the throw as a finisher move.
Which I recall not even really finishing much.
Yeah. No,
Like, it
you
was
just
just more of a
throw it into guys, and maybe it'll knock them down.
Yeah, maybe it'll knock them down. So more often, I don't think you were using that. You were just using the instant takedown, break someone's leg.
Yeah. There's really no reason to use the
It's
throw.
like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to pay your medical bills, and then he just fucking flies off.
The thing is, I think that Arkham Asylum's combat works better in the campaign than it does in the combat challenges.
Absolutely.
Because, like, in the campaign, you have a margin for error. You don't really have to worry too much about being flawless. It's just kind of a reward for figuring out the way to get a flawless combo going in the moment. But when you're doing the combat challenges, it's more deliberately, you have to get this specific challenge down perfectly, and you're going to keep trying until you do. And it becomes a bit tedious after a little while. I think, like, they managed to do combat challenges better in later titles by virtue of introducing greater variety to what you can do. But here, it's all a little straightforward and basic.
These guys succumb to ragdoll physics the same way as I fall down when I just lose all feeling in my right leg. Like, you ever just fall backwards?
Yeah,
For
the
no fucking reason?
ragdolls are really funny. in this
Also,
game.
their lower spines turn to literal jelly.
Yes. Yeah, you hate to see it, man.
Did you see that guy who fell against the wall? His lower back was, like, in a curvy zigzag. Like...
So,
This is like how Twitter draws women.
to stress again, Ryan is playing the original PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 release of the game, which was locked at 30 frames per second.
Yes.
If you ever get the urge to play this game, if you have not invested in this game, I do heavily encourage that you get like the PC version where the frame rate is unlocked. Where you can, well, it's at base 60 frames per second, but I think you can go to like 144 if you got the monitor for it or the specs for it. This game's physics do some really weird fucking shit with higher frame rates in the needs to be seen to believe. Like if you were laughing at the ragdolls before, wait until you play it at a higher frame rate.
Yeah, that's right.
To the moon.
The PS3 and 360 generations still based a lot of their programming around the expected frame rate of a particular game, which made for some interesting bugs and glitches when they tried to re-release things in higher frame rates. Kingdom Hearts had some trouble with that, actually.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts was notoriously bad with that at first. It required multiple patches to get fixed.
These days, it doesn't seem to be so much of a problem. Everything seems to be programmed with a higher frame rate in mind, and then sort of like the frame rate is lowered from there.
Yeah, like going at a lower frame rate nowadays is more of an artistic choice than it is a limitation.
Less of an artistic choice and more of an optimization choice in a lot of cases. Like, I'm pretty sure the frame rates on the Switch being at 30 is not an artistic choice.
No, it totally is, man.
But my point is, like, they're planning ahead for future re-releases by deliberately not programming their games to expect the frame rate that they're going to be using on whatever console they're programming for. And that's probably to the better because it means that that future re-releases won't have the Kingdom Hearts problem. How many physics interactions in Kingdom Hearts got broken when they jumped up to 60 frames per second?
It was two things. One, collision detection was pretty wonky with platforming. Says Kingdom Hearts 1 suffered that.
Yeah, KH1 had a lot of like slightly jank platforming in its base design.
Yeah, there was also a degree of latency in how buttons responded to your inputs given the higher frame rate, and that was mostly relying on like that mostly centered on Sora's abilities.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts could get pretty fast paced, so I can see that being a big problem.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts 2 didn't have that much of an issue in regards to exploration because there wasn't much platforming to begin with, but it did have problems with like the whole reaction command system where some things just didn't work.
Oh. I remember, I think there was a reaction command in the final boss that got broken in the player's favor, though.
Reversal. Yeah, it was definitely the player's detriment. I mean, it depends on how you approach the boss. Reversal was bugged.
I remember hearing that it could be abused to hell and back to beat the boss fast, though.
I have to look into that later. I say that because I'm currently revisiting my Kingdom Hearts 2 level 1 critical mode live streams, and that's been absolute hell.
Trying to re-release older games from like the PlayStation 3 and particularly the PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube generation can be tricky as hell, though.
If you can make it work, I'm all for it. Like, if you are insistent on re-releasing a game with a higher frame rate, please, for the love of God, just make sure it works. Like, I don't want to just fall through a fucking corner of a map because you didn't bother optimizing everything, you know?
Yeah. Well, the unfortunate thing is that the money men who decide to do these re-releases, is
that a Batman film?
They underestimate the amount of work that needs to go into optimizing these games, so they don't allocate enough resources to it. So by the time the quality assurance team knows how many bugs there are, they don't have the time or the money to address them all, and they wind up having to do it through post-release patches instead.
Well, can you guys think of an immediate example of a game that was just absolutely fucking butchered by increasing the frame rate?
Rayman 3.
I'm glad to see I'm not the only one
Rayman
who gets
3?
lost at this point.
Trav, you say Rayman 3?
Oh my god. So, you guys remember Game Tap?
Game Tap?
Yeah, Game Tap. It was a subscription service that let you play PC games.
Oh, now I'm remembering. Yeah, I've heard of this.
It had Rayman 3 on it with an unlocked frame rate, except everything in the game speed, was tied to the 30 FPS. So the
Yes.
game was literally double speed. And it was my first time playing it, and I almost beat the damn game, not knowing why it's going so fucking fast.
So wait, this means that by playing the original frame rate, you must have felt like a fucking god.
Oh yeah, it felt too slow.
It's not quite the same thing, because you technically have to cheat to do it. But I got to experience the original Star Fox on the SNES overclocked, where the frame rate was on 30 frames per second. And guess what? The game is unplayable. The game is absolutely unplayable, because everything is tied to that game's lag.
It's fun to try, but
Oh, it's fun to try, but you're not trying for very long.
Wonder if there's any
Because you're dying.
fan restoration projects to make it playable.
Yeah, I would love to see that because, like aesthetically, it was very pleasing to see in motion, but it was also like, man, I sure as shit am dying on the first level. Not Steve Bloom.
Yeah,
Not Steve
here's
Bloom
here's
again.
where the demo would plop you after the Victor Zaz room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played this demo as well. I remember it was a really good demo. They structured it very well. It's back then we didn't have like game trials or play this demo and you can continue your save file in the actual release kind of demos. No, we just had demos that you downloaded individually and they had to sort of advertise for the game on their own. And a lot of game developers didn't really know how to do that properly, but I'm pleased to say that Batman Arkham Asylum did it masterfully, and it's probably a pretty big reason why the game took off as well as it did.
Yeah, because this was the first game after, I think it was Dark Tomorrow, was it? Either way, the game before this was a massive failure in basically every way.
A lot of Batman games around that time were. It was Dark Tomorrow, there was Vengeance, it was the Son of
Sun Tzu.
Son of Sun Tzu, yeah. Which I think was like that milk gummy bear contraption that Strong Bad drank.
Ah,
in
Sun Tzu!
Homestar. Sun Tzu, yeah. Yeah, not to mention the licensed tie-in games, because the Nolan verse was a thing around this game coming
I
out.
think Only Begins had a tie-in game.
I like how if
Yeah.
you hover behind this guy, the Joker doesn't actually warn him.
Yeah, and they will just keep talking for a good couple of minutes before the game expects you to actually do something.
I like to think the Joker deliberately did that and was having a laugh, because he absolutely would.
It's weird coming back to this game and listening to Mark do Joker, because this was the last time he really sounded like the Joker, because once he got into City, obviously he was putting on a sicker voice for obvious reasons due to that game's story, but after that point it started becoming clear that his throat really couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was getting of age.
Which is fair. I'm not blaming him for it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like you listen to him in Night and you listen to him in like other cartoons since then, and his voice is way raspier.
The Killing Joke, I think, is a really good example.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where this was the last time Mark felt like he was really, still able to do Joker.
I'm pretty sure he only did Joker in The Killing Joke because he likes The Killing Joke as a story.
Well, that and it's kind
Oh,
of
if only he knew.
Well, okay, two things. One, The Killing Joke is kind of the prestige story.
Yeah.
So
but-
you want the voice of Joker to do it. The other is that movie is awkward because the first half is garbage, like absolute trash. But once you actually get into the Killing Joke parts, it's still pretty good. So.
The first half of the Killing Joke movie is weird. It feels like an awkward pilot episode for a Batgirl cartoon that never happened. And then
I think it was just there to set up some sympathetic things for Barbara before she got paralyzed, but despite the fact that it's Batgirl,
well, it
everybody
was
knows
there
who
to
Batgirl is.
fill time and to fulfill Bruce Timm's shipping fantasy.
Yeah, and as a result, everyone's kind of like, Bruce Timm, don't fuck up the new show you're working on.
I mean, to be fair, the animated series version of Barbara Gordon, like, that kind of works, but only the animated series version of Barbara Gordon, because her motivations and introduction are very different from, like, any other Barbara Gordon.
Well, I mean, sort of, but it's also weird because specifically in the animated series, she did date Dick for a while.
Yeah, kind of. But she also, like, very specifically had a thing for Bruce at points, too. It's weird.
Was Bruce a rebound? I forget. Did she only go for Bruce because Dick didn't work out?
There was kind of some stereotypical catty, like, jealousy in the Batwoman movie.
Right. Oh, there was a Batman movie. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
It's okay.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
It exists.
Okay.
It's like a serviceable extra length episode of the animated universe, you know.
Okay.
So which by animated universe standards is still like worth watching, but like I'd watch Mystery of the Batwoman over Sub-Zero, but it's fairly close. And the only reason I say that is because Sub-Zero has all this awkward and extremely dated CGI stuff going on.
Joker must have figured out how I was tracking Gordon.
Now, let's see.
Trail stops here.
How feels the True 5 go?
I almost forgot how well they established the Joker as psychotic in this game. He's a really effective, like, main antagonist for the story. I think the reason that they felt obliged to keep bringing the Joker back in some capacity, even as far as Arkham Knight, is because, like, after this point, they don't really have as strong an antagonist for any of the games. It kind of just becomes a rogues gallery, and the Joker was kind of like the only thing they could think of to tie the 3 games together. Because in, like,
And
Arkham,
it definitely works better here because of the streamlined Metroidvania style rather than the open world.
I mean, in Arkham City, they have Hugo Strange, but Hugo Strange is the kind of villain where, like, you have even less excuse to have him as a final boss than Joker. So they kind of had to have something else take over out of nowhere in the end, just so that the game would have a final confrontation of any kind. And in Arkham Knight, they had, like, 3 or 4 things going on with the main antagonists.
Well, you had Scarecrow as the base, then you had the Arkham Knight himself, which you would believe is more of a final boss than any, because, you know, fucking Batman ain't going one-on-one on Scarecrow. That's an absolute curb stomp. But, you know, it's funny when you think about it, because knowing that Joker is the head honcho of this game, it does make you wonder how they would approach a final boss that wouldn't be just a mook rush, considering the Joker, physically speaking, is no match for Batman.
Well, the unfortunate thing about Batman villains is that, except for maybe Bane, most of them, their main attraction isn't their combat prowess, it's their gimmicks.
Yeah.
As far as guys who could fight Batman, there's Bane, there's
Killer Croc.
Killer Croc, there's Ra's al Ghul in the League of Shadows / Assassins.
Yeah.
There's a few, but not as many.
My point is that while Batman is very good at fighting and often does have to fight, his like main draw is how complicated and, you know, just convoluted in the darkest ways some of his adventures can get. And the Joker is kind of like the poster child of that, where he barely ever fights. He barely ever like straight up fights Batman. But the stuff that he causes and the stuff that he does is like it presents a unique kind of threat. Actually, in the animated series, there are a few interesting moments where when Superman is masquerading as Batman, he actually gets thrown off by the gimmickiness of Batman's villains. Like, not to the point where he's about to lose, but like there are moments where you can tell he doesn't really know how to deal with it and still maintain his cover as Batman.
I mean, the best part of that was the one time he did get to fight was against Bane. And because it's Superman in there, he just curb stomps Bane, and Bane's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, it's like once he gets a look at Riddler and that fucking onesie that he's wearing, I'm pretty sure like inside his mind, he's like, "I'm Miss Darkseid."
Yeah. I mean, that does bring him a good point, because we just had a major Batman movie release, and looking back on it, they never fight in that movie. Batman never fights Riddler.
No, because that's not what that Riddler
Hey,
strives
that's
to be.
punching
Yeah,
down.
so-
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way to do Riddler, if anything.
Yeah, I
would agree.
liked how they did Riddler.
I still need to watch that.
I won't go into specifics, but
I do not think a villain needs to be a physical match for Batman to make him interesting, and I don't think converting an old-timey Batman villain into something like that is a way to modernize them.
The unfortunate thing about a video game, though, is that people have expectations of a final boss, and when they don't get that, you get
Right.
stuff like Fable 2, where people bitch all the way to the moon that fucking Lucien was a cutscene encounter rather than an actual boss.
I mean, I would agree, but I would say that it falls into the developer's hands to think of a clever way to mitigate that issue.
Well, yeah, but like it's not like Fable 2 didn't have a good ending as far as it goes. People were straight up like they wanted a climactic encounter for the end of their fantasy adventure game, and they didn't get one. So
I mean, for something like Batman, I feel like you kind of have to a little bit, just nature of the source material. So
yeah, kind of.
you don't necessarily
Yeah.
need to do a boss fight per se, but you do need to have some kind of big, dramatic, climactic encounter of some kind that's very big, loud, and flashy in that way.
quick time
and if they
event.
couldn't do that with Well, they couldn't do that with Titan Joker. They would have to rely on Joker from the NES game who has lightning power.
The other thing, though, is that because the game is tied to the Arkham Asylum setting, there isn't a lot of leeway to have Joker set something big up. So, the best that they were able to do for this particular story was the Venom stuff, you know? And the only real narrative leeway that gives you is, oh, the Joker can inject himself with something that turns him into a monster. Scary.